Agent Jurgen Strand-Larsen is at it again, as Wolves have reportedly got interest in Borussia Dortmund fullback Julian Ryerson. Now let's speak a bit about him as a player, how much I think this deal's actually got legs, and what I think he would bring to this Wolves side if the interest is real. So let's get straight into this one. As you can see here, apparently Sunderland and Wolverhampton Wanderers have an interest in Julian Ryerson from Borussia Dortmund, and it's a really interesting move for a few reasons. Firstly, I want to make it abundantly clear my thoughts on the move. I don't think this move will go through based on the fact that Juan Luis Sanchez isn't included in the Sevilla squad tonight for the friendly. I do think if he does come to Wolves now, which is actually looking a lot more likely than I did believe a few days ago, then I don't think Ryerson will be coming. However, I think the one thing we need to discuss about Ryerson is the fact that he is 27 years old and he is one of those more experienced heads that I personally think Wolves need to get more of through the door, because they've got far too many links to younger players and also a lot of currently young players at the club. Hence why I think Jean Arias was a very smart signing, because of his age profile. They need players that are ready for the here and now, and I think Ryerson is that. So let's speak a bit about him as a player and also a bit about what he can do in this Wolves side if he was to come in. Now, as you can see here is all the data from Julian Ryerson's last season at Borussia Dortmund. And as you can see here, the reason why I think most Dortmund fans are probably a little bit happy about losing Ryerson is his defensive capabilities. He's actually not too dissimilar to Bueno in that aspect in terms of defensively. He's not unbelievable. I do think he's definitely a better defender than Bueno, And I do think Ryerson wants to defend. Bueno doesn't look like he wants to defend that much for me, and he didn't at Feyenoord, definitely last season. That wasn't his role. And definitely in this side he doesn't. But I think Ryerson's more of that defensive-sided player. And I do think that you might be wondering the reason why I am mentioning Bueno in this. And we'll speak about that later on, because as you've seen reported everywhere, he is a right-back. But we will speak about that later on in this video. Now, as you can see here, successful take-ons, extremely impressive in the top 7% across Europe for successful take-ons for fullbacks last season. Also in the top 12% for expected assisted goals as well. And generally, offensively, he is very, very strong. And as you can see, pass completion is relatively decent as well. Now, offensively, he is really strong. And again, you have to factor in the fact that he is Norwegian. Now, Wolves are building a nice Norwegian core there at the moment with Wolfer, Jurgen Strand-Larsen, and hopefully and potentially Julian Ryerson. I do think that's another thing that we should speak about as well, because they also are bringing in so many Norwegian players at the moment. And the one thing I want to speak on about Julian Ryerson at the moment as well is the fact that he is 6 foot tall. And if you look at the profile of the players that Wolves are bringing in, Leeds have done similar. You think of Anton Stack, you think of Jakob Biel, you think of Sean Longstaff. They've all got these very tall players in and around that bottom half of the league, those very physically imposing players, and I do think that's a strategy that Wolves are looking to adopt. Juan Luis Sanchez, I think, is 6 foot. You've got the likes of Wolfer, 6'1". You've also got a current, a few big lads currently at the squad as well. And obviously Fer Lopez isn't that small either. So generally, I think Wolves are looking to move away from that sort of small fullback areas. That's why I don't think Hugo Bueno and Hervé are particularly going to be starters next season, because they want those taller players, those more physically imposing players. And I think that's a good point that we should touch on as well. Now, why did I briefly touch on Hugo Bueno when speaking about Julian Ryerson just? This is because he can play as a left wing back, a right wing back, a left back, a right back. He's also played in the 6 at points when he was at Union Berlin as well. And generally, that just tells you really how comfortable he is on the ball. And as I've said, he's not an unbelievable defender. And that is my one big concern, is the fact that a lot of Dortmund fans are also quite happy about him as well, potentially leaving. But for me, Ryerson's a really, really experienced footballer and a player that's played at Champions League level, Europa League level, and someone that I think could be really, really decent for any clubs looking to sort of bring in an experienced player that's not going to cost a ridiculous amount. I think he's reported around £9 million. So I think, again, it's relatively decent for a player of his quality and his age profile as well. And as if we just scroll down here as well, 278 professional appearances in his career as well. So he's not short of games. However, one thing that I do want to touch on with Ryerson, apart from his sort of versatility, and that looks to be a profile that Wolves are looking for at the moment as well, with Juan Luis Sanchez being able to play all over the park. One thing that I would just want to touch on quickly with regards to Ryerson here is the fact that you look at his injury history. Now, this for me is the concern. As you can see there, this is another reason why I don't think there's that many legs in this move personally, but I wanted to get this video out there because, as I say, I don't do these videos because necessarily Wolves are linked to them. I just also do them to teach you about footballers that you may be seeing next season in the Premier League, because he may end up at Sunderland, or just teach you a bit about players in general. But as you can see here, he's got a concerning injury record. The fact that it's 2 pages long is absolutely ludicrous in itself. So I don't think this has much legs really as a move, or makes much sense for Wolves as a club personally. But equally, as I've said, there are some promising things to like about Julian Ryerson if he can stay fit. Now, I've always liked Ryerson as a player. I've always really liked him. I think he offers a lot in sort of versatility for a squad. I think every squad needs a player like him and Juan Sanchez, to be honest, and that's why I don't think Ryerson will be coming in. But generally, every squad needs versatile players, and he absolutely brings that. And I also think if the sort of physical demands on him were less in terms of playing games, where he would be a very good rotational player or a player that could also slot in at centre-back if it gets really tough at that right centre-back like Matt Doherty has played throughout the season, I think he could also do that. So I think that's another very interesting point to speak about. But I do think Julian Ryerson's a really interesting player for Wolves and a very interesting profile, and definitely someone that they could look to bring in next season. Now, as you can see here, his injury record was really poor last season as well, and he did miss big chunks of the season. But generally, he's not the most inconsistent player in the world, as you can see there, if you take any stock in SofaScore ratings. I personally don't. But I have watched a lot of Ryerson since he's moved to Dortmund especially, but also when he was in the Europa League with Union Berlin. And I do think it wouldn't be the worst signing in the world for depth in different areas. And like I say, the fees reported around £8 to £9 million. It's really low risk. He's got good, international teammates around him as well. And like I say, it's not a terrible move. But ultimately for me, I don't think this deal will go through based on his injury record, based on perhaps his age you could look at as a positive or a negative for Wolves. I'd look at it as a positive. I think they need to get more experienced players in this current squad, to be quite honest. And generally, I don't think he'll come in also because of the fact that I think Juan Sanchez looks like he will be coming through the door, unless, again, there's another twist in the tail and he does end up at Napoli after all of this. But, like I say, if Wolves do bring in Ryerson, I don't think it would be a bad signing for depth. I don't think it's a particularly unbelievable signing either. Let me know what you think, Wolves fans. I'd really want to hear it in the comments below as well. Now, if you did enjoy this video, I'd really appreciate it if you would like the video, comment below, let me know what you think of Ryerson and you think of this signing and the video itself, of course, because I want to know how I can improve. And also, subscribe to the channel if you're not already, because we're very close to 1.7k now, and it's absolutely insane, really, that we're even close to that. But the goal is 2,000 subscribers before the start of the Premier League season, which I do think is unlikely, but if we can do it, that would be absolutely incredible. Thank you all for the support on recent videos. I have recently started a new job as well, so uploads won't be at like 9 o'clock in the morning and midday. There will now be one upload in the morning and one upload in the evening as well. So I do hope you enjoy that change, and I think it'll benefit those of you who do work a 9 to 5 as well, because the videos won't be up until about 6:30, 7 o'clock. But let me know what you think about this video. If you did enjoy it, like I say, do all of those things I previously mentioned, and I'll see you in the next one.